I shared a little bit about this in my final reflection paper, but one topic I'm passionate about is metabolic health. So today I want to talk a little bit about insulin resistance and how it can lead to type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes affects nearly 34 million people in our country. That's about 1 in 10 people. Since the 1970s, diabetes and obesity in America have increased at a steady rate. In 1972, high fructose corn syrup, an alternative sweetener to sucrose, became a key ingredient in many processed foods and especially in beverages. High fructose corn syrup brought a few advantages to the food industry, mainly a longer shelf life and lower prices than conventional sugar. However, as I pointed out, since the introduction of the ingredient, the health of Americans has suffered, as evidenced by rising rates of both diabetes and obesity. Today, America is on the brink of a sugar epidemic. There are many resources available on the dangers of alcohol and drug abuse, but scientists are just finding out the effects of excess sugar in the diet that can be just as harmful. I think that proper education on nutrition could help a lot of people who are struggling with insulin resistance and/or diabetes. Carbohydrates are the most abundant macronutrient found in the standard American diet. High amounts of carbohydrates are found in many processed foods. Most people understand that carbohydrates are sugars, but this is misleading to many. People instantly think that this means soft drinks, candy, and other treats. This is true, but carbohydrates can also be found in milk, grains, and many fruits. Because of this, people automatically classify these foods as healthy and don't understand the physiology behind the nutrients. For this reason, I believe that education on carbohydrates could positively affect many Americans as well. When we eat carbohydrates, they break down into monomers, which are simple sugars like glucose. As a result, our blood sugar rises and our hypothalamus will be able to sense the body moving away from homeostasis, or our set point. In response, the hormone insulin is released in order to take that glucose out of the blood and into the cell via the GLUT4 transporter to make energy. This process lowers our blood sugar and completes itself in roughly 4 to 6 hours. After that 4 to 6 hour mark, we enter the fasted state. A healthy fasting glucose level is around 70 to 90 milligrams per deciliter. Fasting glucose levels can tell us a lot about a patient's health and their risk factors for certain conditions. While this is a healthy biological process, if someone has chronically high insulin from eating too many carbohydrates too often, this can lead to a damaged receptor that loses its shape over time. When the receptor loses its shape, insulin can no longer bind, and therefore the GLUT4 transporter is never called to the cell surface, and glucose can't enter the cell. As a result, blood sugar levels remain high, which becomes toxic. The hypothalamus will recognize this and will store any excess sugar as fat, causing our blood sugar to rapidly drop. Our hypothalamus then senses the low sugar levels and classifies it as an emergency situation. Cortisol, often called the stress hormone, is secreted by the adrenal glands to give us glucose for quick fuel by breaking down liver glycogen. Blood sugar will then rise again and even more insulin is produced in order to normalize our blood sugar, and the same futile cycle will occur. Insulin resistance is a vicious cycle that perpetuates itself and can lead to type 2 diabetes. People with insulin resistance and diabetes are called metabolically inflexible. They're not able to alternate between burning fat and burning glucose. They're stuck burning glucose for fuel. When blood sugar is high and insulin stores the sugar as fat, these individuals can't get the nutrients into their cells to make energy. As a result, they feel tired and groggy despite even eating a meal less than 2 hours ago. This is why diabetes is dubbed by researchers and clinicians as being overfed and undernourished. I think that we should try to eliminate the shame and stigma surrounding obesity and diabetes. We need to treat these people with compassion and help them understand how they can correct this. Many people also believe that the best way to help a diabetic is to inject more insulin. But as the research points out, that doesn't really do much for someone who is already insulin resistant to begin with. Rather, we should work to teach them proper nutrition and exercise, because both diabetes and insulin resistance can be corrected. We have to train their body to not only burn sugar for fuel, but also how to burn fat. This is why the keto diet can be such a powerful tool. By burning fat and not glucose, we give the damaged insulin receptor time to heal itself. There are many functional medicine clinics devoted to this, and I think we'll see more and more pop up in the coming years. The food industry also needs to change and stop infusing harmful sugar additives like high fructose corn syrup in such high amounts. Carbohydrates are not evil, but with any nutrient, we need to make sure we're eating healthy amounts of it. I'm sure we've all been touched by diabetes, whether it's by a family member or a friend who's been affected by it. It is important to treat because diabetes has links to many chronic conditions like cardiovascular diseases, strokes, and even dementia and Alzheimer's disease.